Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
If you've been hurt in a road accident that wasn't your fault, you should really talk to G4 Claims first. Unlike road accident solicitors, we don't charge you for our services, which could see you better off. To keep 100% of your compensation, have a chat with Nicole and the team. You'll be glad you did. Search online for G4 Claims.
Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
Hi and welcome to this week's episode of the DW podcast. I am joined by two guys that I have known for the best part of 15 years.
By the way.
It is, yeah,
It's been that.
I'm joined by Cbas and Gary from the band Dead Sea Souls. How you doing?
Hello. Good mate, how are you?
I'm alright, I'm quite excited about this one. It's funny, it's like you get these people in that you don't know too well and you're thinking, I've got so much to ask them about, but I don't even know where to start with you.
Well, you've not been drunk with Ori folk as many times as you've been drunk with us.
Let's not start with that stuff. So it's hilarious. I mean, I don't know when Dead Sea Souls started, but I think we probably played our first gig with you at least in 2012.
It was probably even earlier than that. I remember we played I saw a memory actually on Facebook. We played the Barrowlands in 2009.
Is that what you're thinking?
2009.
That was Barras?
No, I don't think. No, I think we played with the Banter Thieves a few times. We definitely played with you guys in the Admiral Bar. We played I played loads of gigs with you actually, but I reckon it would have been 2011 maybe, 2010. But
What year did you start?
It's hard to say. Like
I was 19, so...
Do you know what I think? This is where it's scary. I think it was about 2003. It kicked off before you were involved, but that was only for maybe...
Oh really?
I kicked off before Gary was involved.
Before it got serious.
Sort of realised that we needed a change of guard a wee bit, so...
Who was singing before Gary?
Me.
Were you? Aye. But you must have been bad, Cbas.
I openly admit on air I cannot sing, and I still struggle with it.
That's no struggle.
I know technically how to do it, but actually delivering it is a lot harder than what it looks.
It's a different style.
No, we were a four-piece before Gary was in, and then so that ran for a year and a half mostly.
That's important though.
Really?
You played with
I played with a band called Jimmy and the Moustaches.
Jimmy and the
Did you have moustaches?
My dad's called Jimmy and he had a big massive moustache.
Right.
And it was me and a few mates from school, and I went to school with Clarky, our drummer, and we don't know, we were talking and we were playing a gig at the Crofty. You were playing a gig at the Crofty. And
Where was that, Livingston?
No, in Whitburn.
Whitburn.
And then we did one at the football club together.
Aye, that's it.
And the Green Tree.
Aye,
Right, these were all before I was in the band, so I was in this other band. And then one day Jimmy and the Moustaches split up through creative differences. And,
What happened?
No, basically, two of the guys in the band wanted to play quite progressive stuff.
Right.
And I was like, no, I want to play disco beats and catchy choruses. And but I'm still mates with him to this day. But anyway, our drummer Clarky phoned me up and he was like, yeah, heard your band split up, you ready for the opportunity of a lifetime? that was to join Dead Sea Souls. And,
What age were you then?
I don't know.
I was 20.
Can you remember?
I was 19, 20.
Really?
Do the
I was
maths
19,
then, so
20,
how long ago was that?
So I was born in 1986, so was that 2005, 2006? I would have been 2006 actually, I'd have probably been 20 or just
So
about
2004, roughly when it started, so it all kicked off.
Over 15 years, man.
I know.
That's unreal.
I know. It's kind of...
I thought it only took 10 years to make an overnight success. What have you been doing?
Scary, man. You take about those 15 years, I'm currently reading Dave Grohl's autobiography at the moment, right?
What could have been?
Exactly. you read it, seeing the space of like that many pages for anybody who's watching. He's went from being like a high school drummer to starting Nirvana to making millions to killing himself, and now doesn't know what to do, all in the space of like 3 times Dead Sea Souls have been together. So that's the computer. I know what was wrong.
Aye, no, but we... that was... Oh God, but see, you say you start a band start date could be the time you first get the room and play together, but it isn't really. It's when you start playing
Proper gigs.
good gigs. And when I say good gigs, I just mean in actual venues, because obviously your first 10 gigs are going to be in front of a man and his dog for the most part.
But that's what makes a band, isn't it?
Aye, definitely. We served the apprenticeship. Like, I think now you could actually probably start a band, record fairly easily, release something on iTunes or sorry, Apple Music, I'm showing my age now, Apple Music and Spotify, then do your first ever gig and have people there and potentially sell it out. But you couldn't do that then, because the idea of just releasing a song was miles away.
Aye.
It was hard.
It was like you couldn't just open an account with Spotify artists and put something up there. So so you had to gig your arse off.
Do you remember like printing your own CDs and
I was just
making
going to say that. I remember,
Copying them and giving it to folk.
I can remember handwriting notes to record companies going, hello, we're Dead Sea Souls. We're really pleased to be able to send this demo off to you. Here you go. We hope to enjoy it. Here's my telephone number, email address, house address. If you can't get me, here's my girlfriend's number. This is my dad's one. And then zero back.
Aye.
But that's what we were doing back then.
And that was the era, like, the days when you would, football players and music and rock stars got scouted in the same manner. They would come and see you do your thing over a period of weeks and months and even potentially years, and then go, I fucking like these guys, we can market this. But that was just coming to an end. The A&R guy was, his role was changing, and we were coming to the end of that period, and it was all starting to become, you probably had a MySpace as well.
Aye.
The band
God,
probably
aye.
had
We
a
did have a
Bebo and a
MySpace,
MySpace, we certainly did, aye. And so we were still made in that mould a wee bit.
I think there was
Do you
something a bit more romantic about those times. Like,
Aye, going and playing Bannermans in front of 3 people and them hating your guts.
That was a good time. Like.
They were good times. Remember Rockers?
Rockers was
Remember
where the
Rockers?
Archies in Glasgow,
Aye,
isn't it?
aye,
Down that
aye,
wee lane. I
that's
think
right.
it's called Audio now.
Is it?
Aye, I think it's
Oh,
still a
right,
venue.
right, there
aye.
you go. Well,
Like where the Crystal Palace is, where the Archies is in Glasgow. Aye.
we used to get booked in Rockers because our name was Dead Sea Souls, and whoever was booking the bands must have looked at it and went, they sound like a fucking right heavy rock band. And they would get there and we'd be playing songs called like Disco Town and all these kind of fluffy wee indie tunes, and just fucking guys with chains and fucking beards were just looking at us like, fuck are these idiots?
Dead Sea Souls. What's a medieval biblical rock? These guys. What's going on
And there
here?
was another Dead Sea Souls in America, and they were like that.
Was there? Aye.
Aye, aye.
Did that ever make you think about changing the name? No.
No, you don't realise until it's too late.
No, exactly.
Aye, we never had the foresight to check Google to see if there's anybody else called Dead Sea Souls, which I was.
We,
I hope they hear this.
got down that. I saw them. Saw a video of them playing once. And,
Well, they awful.
aye, they were terrible, but they were like,
I bet you they're in America saying the same about you.
probably it's fucking guys.
You know, I think you've got a unique name though. That's quite unique, right?
Aye. Where did it come from?
I've no idea.
No.
It came from an encyclopedia, right? I hold full responsibility for the name that I hate, which is I hate it. It's an awful name. It's a
He's wanted to
really
change it.
bad name, right?
He wants to change it.
But
Can you change it now?
Aye, we can't change it now. At the times we hope past. Aye.
We went through. There was other names on the table, right? Before Gary was involved, right? For a moment, we were called Simone.
Simone.
Right? That was one point. We called
Like the
ourselves
women's
Simone.
name?
As in
Then
the
we
one
were
or
like
Samoan as in from Samoa.
Simone, Simone, Simone. Right? That was one thing.
That's shite. That's terrible.
So
You're moaning about Dead Sea
That's
Souls.
a bit actually looking gash, right? So
I think we got half. I think we dodged the fucking bullet.
it was a good job.
You wouldn't have got those gigs in Rockers with that. Then.
No chance. Samoan.
So I flicked through I said to everybody, I'll flick through an encyclopedia and the first word at the top of the page is what we call ourselves. And I flicked it and it landed on Dead Sea Scrolls. And I think, well, we can't call ourselves after the Dead Sea Scrolls. Folk will think we're some Christian rock band. So I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll just change it to Dead Sea Souls. I mean, that's about as exciting as it gets.
I know. I wish there was a better backstory to that, but there isn't.
But do you know what I like about you is in many bands that have come out of West Lothian since then, you're pals before you're a band.
Aye.
You know, and I don't think, maybe this is quite harsh, I know that there's a lot of people out there that have been pals, but I feel now a lot of people in the music industry get put together because they're talented.
They do, and also there's a lot of transactional stuff goes on with forming bands, like because they need to, right? So no criticising this type of setup. It's just like somebody will go, I've got all these songs that are mine. I need to have a band of musicians to be able to play them live and contribute to how they're arranged and stuff like that. Whereas we spent too much time being mates. Probably not enough time actually playing. But aye, that's the thing. And whenever the 4 years are together, we're still we're still best mates. But we wouldn't ever do anything if one person out of 4 didn't want to do it.
Yep.
Good example is when this prick fucked off to the other side of the planet. Other folk would be like, well, get another guitarist. Oh, you can't.
You can't do that.
We can't do it. It's not the same.
But people who aren't friends will never get that.
No, exactly.
You know.
Aye. No, it's bands members in some acts can be interchangeable, and fair enough, because they weren't made in the same way. But nah, I know for us, we couldn't.
And I think as well it depends on why they're leaving. Like you were going to work in New Zealand, you know, it's not as if you'd fell out.
Oh, I went for a jolly. Like. It's a good jolly. 5 year carry on. Served me well. I enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's funny coming back though, because nothing changed. Like nothing. When we were coming back that first rehearsal, there was no intention to play Dead Sea Souls music ever again.
No, we
put that to bed.
Aye.
But then of course this starts. This carry on. Right, jams. Let's go for a jam. Aye, okay.
Aye, then we were going to
next
play.
Thing you know,
we're going to do something different. We're going to play.
You could have been called Simone or something like that.
We're going to call ourselves Simone and play, I don't know, a fucking pop cover band kind of this guy. But we weren't going to even do that. And we got in and then we were like, we'll play a few Dead Sea Soul songs. Then I had written a couple and we started playing them. Like, by the way, I'm really enjoying this. Do you think we should do a gig? It was like, this all took probably about 2 weeks to get through. We should maybe do a gig. We'll just do a wee gig in a hall somewhere like the football club in Whitburn or somewhere like that, and then that evolved into 2 nights at King Tuts, and then the pandemic happened and put the shortest comeback ever into context.
Let's take it way back to the early days, right? Say 2005, 2006, when you started practicing together, and you says, you know, you don't really start playing gigs until you play proper venues.
Aye.
What was the first proper venue you played? Do you remember? Or when
Sound Station.
was it the sound station?
The Sound House in Glasgow.
There was a few shows where you realised there's a lot of people here, and that's like Soundhouse was one. When we did a show in Liverpool for Cavern Club for the second time, and I was like, that was styled out. But I guess not until you start playing the renowned venues. I remember like first time at King Tuts, because you've always held King Tuts in high esteem, right? Yeah. Especially back then, because you know that's where the Gallagher brothers managed to pull it out of the hat, right? And so you all the names on the stairs. For me,
I remember the first time I thought we were like taking it more seriously was, remember when Barfly was still open?
Yeah.
And we had been, previous to that, you had been relying on the goodwill of your mates and family to come to your gigs, as every band does in the beginning. And we didn't put any effort into selling tickets to go and play the Barfly. None. We didn't like take physical tickets for the promoter, which is a thing that's dead now, by the way, but we used to do it. I'm sure you used to do it as well. And we turned up and it was absolutely packed. It was totally packed, and we were like, oh shit, these people have came, we didn't know them.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a turning point. That was a turning point for us. As soon as you start going to shows and you're looking at the crowd and you're like, I don't know these people personally, that's when you're like, well, folk are actually enjoying the music and they're just coming because it's a piss up and they happen to know us. Yeah. Which, by the way, they still do. Which I'm more than happy about as well.
turning point for me, right? Guys, I appreciate it.
You chucked the fucking keyboard in the bin.
I can send you that. I can send you my momentary, like that wee brief moment with fuck keyboards was a good idea. I think getting rid of that, that was a turning point. No, when we opened up the inbox one day and there was this email for a girl in America, Libby. Right?
Oh, Living Eagle.
She's fucking love you guys. She's fucking awesome. And you open the video and it's her in her car driving around all these little towns and villages. Where was she from? Colorado or something like that?
Shut up.
Right, driving around, going into a friend's house, putting this on, yes, going mad, dancing with somebody's dog, back out in the car and that. I'm like, right, so they're listening to us in the States. That's it. That's America.
These two folk are
that was the turning point. And then to make that even better, she was a super fan. Like she just decided
and
one
dead
day.
nice as well. Like.
She said in an email one time, I'm coming over to see you. That was the last we heard about it. Wow.
She's still somewhere in Whitburn.
We were having dinner with our manager at the time, Ross and John, in Carmen in Whitburn. And it was a guy who'd done a website for us and we were treating him with dinner. And we were playing in the attic that night, in Basket, in the attic, right? And we were just having dinner before it and stuff. And somebody texted me saying, this lassie for America's here.
Was that
name's
girl?
Fucking, her name's Libby. I was like,
you took her to Basket?
She just arrived.
I was like, what? Is this a fucking wind up? I thought it was, because I'm sure it was Danny Bell that texted me to say, this lassie Libby's here. I said, you can't be fucking serious. She's feeling like Illinois. Something like that. Got there and there she is. Fucking, and then she went, we were just about to embark on a kind of wee mini tour, which culminated in us playing Blackwood Rooms. I think for an album launch maybe. Maybe.
Pass.
I don't know. We were playing the Liquid Rooms anyway. It was our headline show at Liquid Rooms, and she recorded the full thing. On this
Honestly,
camera and
aye.
all that, like the build up to it and travelling to the gig and
No way.
all these bits and pieces. She was a really nice lassie actually. She's still kind of.
She had a mad obsession with Scottish folk, I think.
Aye,
That's it.
she
ended
did. Is she
up
married?
marrying
Is she married a Scottish guy?
Actually, aye.
I think she just like.
I hope she met at one of your gigs.
She probably did. I mean, that's the thing she did when she was out here. But aye, she still comments and occasionally on stuff, and that's really strange to see. But fair enough, you know what I mean? She just obviously thought I like them. But,
There you go. Right, Libby, you'll be watching this. It's
I know.
for you.
I hope she is watching this by the way. Aye, absolutely.
Is the video still online?
I don't know. Probably.
That'd be great to dig that out, wouldn't it?
Because it was on YouTube.
So many videos.
The one for her and her pal driving around their hometown with a stack of copied Dead Sea Souls CDs and handing them into cafes and restaurants and bars. People,
That's
it's like
brilliant.
time lapsed, right? So it's really well put together. It's still on YouTube. And I just, the thing that sticks to me about it was all these bemused faces in the restaurant. I see the waitress just taking their CDs and we're like,
What's this for?
what the fuck?
Coaster.
Exactly. I've been
Put the
waiting
coffee
for
on that.
wedge fucking wobbly table up with a couple of them. Aye, but so that was Colin's right. That was a bit of a mad one. But around then, it's funny because that coincided with us just starting to play like better, bigger venues and actually selling tickets for them as well, which was good. But aye, no, it was just it was a laugh. Like I said to you earlier, I listened to the show you did with the guys for Dictator, hearing them talk about how all the business side of it and targets and being really regimented about how, and it's brilliant to hear it, and that's how you do it. I mean, if you talk to any of the guys for the Snuts, they'll tell you we were able to turn this into a business, and that's why it's something that we can do sustainably. But we didn't have the first clue. Didn't know what to do. We thought that maybe we would just keep playing and building up audiences, and then one day some magic guy for a record company with a suitcase full of cash would just go, fuck, we want to sign you guys. Aye. We didn't realise that actually you had to know this entire other side of the business. We just played gig after gig after gig. Couldn't understand why we weren't getting more like recognition for the kind of music scene. You know what I mean?
But he's weird, right? And I've made jokes about this many times in this podcast that I've had so many folk from West Lothian on now.
Aye.
Just as you said, Dictator, Mark Sharp, Luke Lavolpe, like,
Aye.
and then obviously touching the Snuts and Lewis is the biggest success. But yous were
Well, Susan Boyle's the biggest success.
That's true, isn't it? But yous were 10 years before all of that, and you paid, like, without a doubt, without being big-headed, yous paved the way for these people to come through.
Well, that's very flattering.
Aye.
It's maybe easy to say in retrospect, but I don't know.
Totally. I think
Hopefully.
I
a
think
lot of
you
these
need to
guys
take credit
existed.
for that.
A lot of these guys existed in other guises. Do you know what I mean? Like Luke was playing acoustic a lot of the time, and the guys for Dictator were in loads of different bands. Like one of them was in the Barrels, Japan 4, Phantoms, and these guys always were on the scene. I suppose the only difference was that when we were playing gigs even locally at the start, you had to fight tooth and nail to get people to come out and see you. Like really, you had to put a gig on, you had to like post a text message. It was text messages because really you couldn't sell a gig through social media then, so we had to like text every single person that we knew and try and get the word out there, and that's the difference. And then that scene built up, and then before long, good bands were coming to Bathgate to play. Ocean Colour scene were coming, Sunshine Underground.
That's right. Aye.
All of a sudden there was this buzz about West Lothian, and folk would come out on a Wednesday night to see a touring band who they didn't know.
It's amazing.
They'd come into Harley's or the Attic or something, and 100 people would come in and see some band they'd never fucking heard of. Which is the marker of knowing that an area's got a scene.
I can only compare it to being from North Lanarkshire. Very similar, outskirts of Glasgow, in between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and we've never really had that. And it's because there's maybe been one band comes or two band. I say never, right? Back in maybe the 90s, you had the likes. There was this kind of indie scene that came out of Bellsell and stuff, Teenage Fan Club, whatever. But it doesn't compare to what you had through there. And no disrespect, right? It's the same as us. It's like these fucking post-industrial towns that have got nothing happening. And out of nowhere, there's this amazing music scene.
Totally.
But that's outside looking in, you see out of nowhere. But it's because week in, week out, there's gigs there.
It becomes an identity, and I'm glad that he's finally getting the type of recognition he deserves, but there's guys like Ross Coates are responsible for that, because Ross was booking bands and putting them on in venues in Bathgate back when nobody gave a shit. And then steadily over time that snowballed into something that, if Dead Sea Souls had never existed, Ross would have been putting on bands in Bathgate and he'd have found another Dead Sea Souls. Do you know what I mean? He would have found another band that was willing to go out there and fucking gig constantly. But that's guys like Ross are the guys that build the scene.
But you try to play it down, but ultimately, Capaldi supported you, the boys with the snuts supported you. Look, Mark, they've all supported you.
It makes you wonder.
That's it.
Aye. I mean, the Banter Thieves have got a lot of similarities to us in the way that had a tremendous local following. You could take that places all the time. And that became the goal for us, was to take it out of Bathgate and then start selling out venues in Glasgow and Edinburgh and try and build a wee bit of a fan base there. And that's where it becomes tricky. And but we'd always go back to play Bathgate and we'd usually have a decent crowd there. So aye, it's never kind of went away. I suppose it was nice to know when we came back that it was still there. We did the Dreadnought with you guys, and it was good to see that people were still wanting to come out and see us.
But I mean, see for me, and I don't know, you all know better than me because it was you were involved, but I always thought that you were going to smash it and make it and get signed. You sold out how many nights in King Tuts?
Aye, so making it, I mean, I suppose making it is where you get to a point where your band is sustainable as a business that's going to pay the people who are involved in banging. And we never ever reached that stage for a variety of different reasons, and I think one of them was luck. Do you know, I think there is a certain element of luck. You just need to be in the right place at the right time sometimes.
But you said earlier about what it was like back then, and your comparison was brilliant. It was like football agents are very similar to A&Rs at the time, and there must have been a lot of A&Rs come out to see you as well.
Probably would have
There would have been.
You'd
You'd hear rumours about it all the time, saying so and so from Mercury's got to be there, and it just never happened for us for whatever reason. But also we didn't know, and I always reference this right all the time, right, and it's probably it's no controversial, right, it's fact. But I remember we did King Tuts one night and it was sold out, and after it I got invited to an after show in below broadcast, right? And I said no, we're going to the ABC with our pals to get fucking smashed. I didn't realise that actually what other folk would have done in that scenario was go and rub shoulders with all these fucking people that are connected in the Glasgow music scene. We weren't interested in any of that, and if we didn't realise that's what was happening. And I think that was a hindrance to us as well. But we were in that transition period, like I say, between how bands used to get signed and used to be recognised as saying, well, these guys have good songs, and these songs will be bought by somebody. And we were at that time when the music industry had stopped being able to sell its main product, which was CDs. Do you know what I mean? So we were in a funny wee period. But as to why it never happened for us,
well, you have to recognise as well, right, that making it is such a definitive term. It's like a benchmark. But success in the music industry is a bandwidth, right? You have to go from to selling out King Tuts to selling out Wembley Stadium is a long process. There's 100,000 bands out there that may have made it because they were signed to a label and released an album. That doesn't actually mean very much to you. You're still. You're not making millions off that sort of stuff. You can walk into any record store in Glasgow and Edinburgh and there will be a plethora of bands you've never heard of before who half of them are still working on building sites.
Exactly.
So what is making it?
Made it isn't it? I think if you're playing music to the level you aim to. So for us,
you're selling out gigs, and there's bands that would never sell at King Tuts. So you've made it to a certain
there's a bandwidth there.
How many bands are still playing 15 years later? That in itself is
that's a success in our right. We look forward to those sort of things.
Definitely.
And our legacy is a good one that we're proud of.
We're upfront about it now. See, when you're younger, you used to be like, never want to say this because you were almost being seen as not ambitious, but music is never going to be your main income as four people. It just isn't. We're going to have jobs, we've got families, we've got kids, people are getting married, somebody's engaged, and and that's not going to be a thing. We're doing this for different reasons. So if our goal is to hopefully sell out some shows, some good shows over the course of a year, and make the best music that we can make on our own, then that's fine. That's for us, that's making it. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of like then we set out today, and we're kind of halfway there.
I also think it's really interesting that story he says, but you just knocked back that after, so right, you went to ABC, because I got the time
I
that
use
was the
Widow.
exact same.
Absolutely use Widow.
But,
100%.
and I've said this quite a few times, and it's not a slight, but I feel as if the Scottish music scene, more so the Glasgow music scene, is quite cliquey.
It's not quite cliquey, it's one of the cliquiest. It's insane. And I remember, and you know, you guys were involved in this merry-go-round. It was the tea break stage at T&T. Every single unsigned band at our level coveted this slot at tea break as if it was the most important thing that would ever happen to you in the world. And you wanted it so bad, and we wanted it so bad. And it never happened, and we were told by various people within DF concerts, oh, you were really close this time, you're really close that time, and next year will be the time for you guys, and you know?
I'm trying not to sneeze.
All right.
And, which is the mute on my
and so we
But
used
at
to
the
look
time,
in
that
outside.
tea break stage was the ultimate, wasn't it?
It was the ultimate, and of course you were guaranteed to play in front of other people, but bands would pop up and play it and then disappear off the radar because they were connected and they were plugged into that music scene, right? And that's where that side of the business comes in. It's this networking thing, and we saw loads of them, bands that would come up, and once I remember somebody inside DF Concert saying to me, like, we're in real danger of not putting any like indie pop bands on tea break because we're so obsessed with like bands coming in playing upside down fucking accordions and
It was
doing
that
really
synth
strange
music
shit,
at the time as well, wasn't it?
and it's like
That's when the keyboard came out first.
but it was super cliquey, and actually, and you guys would have felt this as well, no doubt, being a regional band, right, seen as being a band who, do you know what, they're good at bringing their mates to gigs, they're rowdy, they can put on a wee bit of a show, that's their level, that's their glass ceiling. Never seen as a band who would sell tickets in their own right, and we were that, I wouldn't say that held us back, but that's definitely, by the Glasgow music scene, that's how we were seen. That's how we would be like, bands like, because remember Johnny and the Gyros?
They never saw the artistic side.
No, they just thought we were
They
like...
think there's no art, so therefore they're just...
This is maybe very unfair for me, right?
Absolutely.
And I feel that still to this day, a lot of bands from working class communities out with the cities struggle. And I think partly what you're seeing now is people like, the perfect example is Jerry Cinnamon, right? He's a working class boy who sings about working class issues and where he's from. And the crowd that he's got, the folk for these schemes and have got behind him, right? Look at Sam Fender, right? He's a guy that's singing about real life issues, and these folks seem to be smashing through it. But for so many years, they've been ignored because they've maybe not been arty enough or creative enough or
That's the thing.
different enough. People aren't screaming out for different. They're screaming out for singy, catchy.
There was a real thing about working class bands for working class areas back then, because every one of us was seen as an Oasis band. Oh, they're an Oasis covers band, you know, they'll do these indie songs with loads of chords in them, and their fans will sing along and they'll probably turn up and get pissed, but they'll sell a few tickets. That was 100% how we were perceived. Definitely. There was no like attempt to even listen really to the music, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Just that's
How frustrating is that though? You know,
I suppose it is. We're in a different place now because we don't...
It's not now. You know, you can look back and laugh about that. But
totally.
at the time...
Well, no, it was very frustrating at times because I would read these things and I would see, you know, it's really bad and nobody in bands wants to admit it, but back then I would see other bands getting glowing reviews and stuff in like magazines and newspapers, like mainstream publications. I'd be like, I don't understand why we can't kind of garner that level of interest. I don't know what we're doing wrong, but it's just, that's it. And you think all these guys now, like you're saying about the Snots and Mark and Dictator and Sylvie, like West Lothian is a really working class area, and there's a kind of mentality that comes along with that as well, and they bring that into their music.
Absolutely.
And folk love it. They absolutely love it. But I don't know.
If any of them ever turned around to you and say thanks very much, like...
Well, do you know what the Dictator boys have said hundreds of times on different podcasts? They're really nice guys and that, and they make us feel right old. The elder statesmen and that. But no, listen, we don't need any more praise for these bands. They've always been really nice when they're speaking about us, which is great. And there is a real culture of helping each other.
Yep.
There really is. I think you see that with the studio.
Aye. and the studios became important for that reason. It has become a pivotal point. You know what I mean? There's a sense of community. There's a good sense of spirit. There's a lot of chat running about the studio now, right? I mean, we calculated the other day, there's like 120 different musicians who come through there every week. That's a lot of people talking to each other, making music.
Such a small place.
Using space. We're proud to be a part of that.
It's good for us because we can see the bands that are quite visible, West Lothian, that are making a lot of noise in it. We can see the rung below that are coming
There's
through.
more coming.
That could date. Aye. I mean, there's a band. There's Ocean Velvets and Cloud9, and you could name Colin's the most involved in the studio that he was, but these guys are making good music. You know what I mean? And eventually it'll be their turn. The door will revolve again. Do you know what I mean? So it's good to see. It's been it is a bit of a community. I've heard the other bands speak about it before, and you'll see it when Lewis and the Snuts any time they reach a new level, they're almost reaching and
pulling everything
dragging somebody up. Do you know what I mean? Which is how it should be. That's the way it should be.
What I think's really impressive and brilliant about that is you see Lewis's gigs and Snuts and always supporting them as bands for around your way.
Oh, aye.
You know, it's still their pals. It's not as if they've let the record label or the promoter say we're putting on X, Y, and Z.
And that conveyor belt will continue.
Totally.
So maybe one day Mark Sharp and everybody they'll be playing the gigs at Capaldi's currently, but they'll do the same, right? They'll pull all the young talent up with them, and they can support them at Princess Street, wherever it happens to be, right? And that's important.
It is.
The West Lothian legacy, continues.
It's getting stronger.
But you fucked off to Glasgow. You're not even staying in
I know,
West Lothian anymore.
Anyway, I stayed Whitburn 3 minutes for the studio. I'm true to my roots.
I've done my time, man.
He's been everywhere.
He's done his sentence.
I've done my time.
Like I feel as if I've been putting you like a sob story here. Like, fuck, you should have made it, and you never went wrong. But ultimately, right, we supported you at your farewell gig when you were going to New Zealand. I think that was December 2013, maybe.
Aye, that's right.
And that seemed like a really emotional affair. That was like this huge band are fucking disappearing, and they've played the bars, they've played all these places, and like, folk were gutted.
Aye.
You know,
it was a bittersweet night. It was because there was about 700 people packed into that church or nightclub or whatever it was. I don't know.
And that was very much. This is the last gig we'd ever played.
Oh, aye, definitely, aye. And we thought, and by the way, everyone else believed it, and up until about 6 months before we played King Tuts in 2019, that we still believed it. But aye, we've no like, it's a happy story. Ours is a happy story. Do you know what I mean? It's like we've no regrets about how we did it, because we all love our lives the way they are. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't. There's certain there's things about playing in a band now the way we do it that I'm extremely happy with, which is this kind of it's like a hobby. It's like playing junior football, right? It's like playing for a part-time football team. It's like
you can love the game again.
You can love it. You can do it a few times a week, and it's fantastic, and that's brilliant. So,
but even just making music back then, when you were recording, you were probably getting into studios, and you've got 3 days, and you're trying to cram everything into one day. Now you've built your own studio. You've got as much time as you want to record.
You know, that's a lovely blessing. I really enjoy that. How you just take your time. You're making music the way you want to make it. We said that the music we make is now the stuff that we want to listen to.
Totally.
Right? And if we want to put that, an upside down accordion in the middle of it, then that'll go in. It has done.
You probably would. Some of the things that you've tried to inject in these songs, you would.
Well, only because every time Dave gets his hand on a saw, right, he's a joiner. He's the only guy I've ever seen who can play the saw.
Play the saw?
Get the saws out.
He bends it.
You can tell.
Next time we come on, we'll bring Dave and he'll do a saw solo.
That's amazing.
It's a matter of time,
He's been canvassing for a saw solo in the middle of a song for years, but aye, you're right, we take the time. Colin's the main driving force behind that, because he's the man that has taken on the task of being the producer, sound engineer and organiser when it comes to the studio. So I have to hand it to him. I was very surprised at how fucking good he was, because when we did Two Houses, that was the first song we were recording in our own gaff, and we were really pleased with how it came out, and we took a lot of time. There was a lot of things went into that, came out,
it's a
scrap,
process,
then went in and we rewrote it. We almost rewrote it during the recording process.
And I don't mean this to sound like your previous songs weren't mature, but they were off a time, and I feel that you know, 2 houses that you brought out in December of last year is the same DSS as it was before, but with a maturity about it. You can tell that you're older.
It's a slightly hairier DSS, isn't it?
It's a wee bit.
It still sounds very like yours, but you can tell that you're older. You can tell that you're more worldy.
Aye, totally. It's less angry as well. I think a lot of our songs were quite angry back in the day.
Angry.
It's got no swearing in it. By the way, there's no swearing in any of the new songs.
No, there's not.
None. I've given it up.
Check, I've also seen you've got kids now.
Okay. I know. Well, my wife's listening to the songs. My wee girl Nora's 5, and she's like, she loves it, and she Santa Claus brought her an Alexa for Christmas, and she's always like, Alexa, play Dead Sea Souls.
That's amazing.
And she wants to bit. So I really knew when it goes on, I'm like, oh, by the way, that's trendsetters. There's going to be a fuck or a bastard any minute. But I think, well, the new ones maybe we'll cut the swearing it.
But the thing is, if you play it through Amazon Music, it does come up with a parental guidance. Just
Does
before
it?
you play it, aye.
Really?
Which
Aye.
I'm so proud of. Because that was a CD you were never allowed to buy, innit?
Aye,
It was the
totally.
Eminem CD, your mum's not happy with it, right? Well,
We
that's
did-
it. Apple Music's got that sticker on it.
Aye, definitely. We did that song, City Girls Mind.
Aye.
That never made it to the album. It was one of the songs that got cut off the album we did in 2012. And actually, looking back, it was the best decision I ever made, because I think I say fucking it about maybe 20 times. Literally. The song is absolutely insane. It's like it's like a rap song. It's honestly God, aye. But no, we're kind of, the way that we approach writing is different now as well. We're kind of spending a lot more time in the writing process, and then equally we're spending that time again in the production and post-production when we're actually recording it, because now because we're doing it for our own enjoyment, we just want to get something out of it that we're really happy with, rather than getting something out. Because before it was a wee bit like, we need this to sound like how we play it live, because people love it when we play it live, so it needs to, and we used to get criticised for it.
Aye, I think a lot of bands get criticised for that.
Aye, they do, aye. They
You've
do.
been through that yourself, right? You're like, why does this not sound the way
Live,
it's meant to sound live? Like,
It's not live, no.
And you're a very energetic live show. It's hard to get that across in the studio.
It's possible, you know. It's
you can do it. There's technical ways of doing it, aye. And it's like, it's just, what
It's
is the
different,
technical ways of doing it? I don't know if we managed to do it, but
One day you'll
explain
find
it,
out,
innit? Aye, just
No,
make
but
it
I mean-
really loud.
the thing is, you make a sort, when you go to see a band live, the sound is massive, right? Because the sound's always fantastic, and well, it should be. And there's this euphoric feeling around it. And I've been there loads of times. I remember I got to see Franz Ferdinand, El Presidente at Tina Park.
Aye.
And I was like, fucking hell, this is amazing. I went to be and bought the album, and I was like,
It's
it's
not
not
as good.
it's not the same. Well, it wasn't very good, but it was just not quite the same. So the way that you replicate it in the studio must be spending more time in the production, rather than just going, right, everybody play harder, you know, the velocity of the drum strikes need to be higher, everything needs to be 10 times more energy. That you can't do it like that.
Aye.
And I think we thought we could
It is.
back then.
It's actually harder to capture that, because you're limited to you've got a volume limitation when you're recording music, right? But you don't have that when you're live, right? You've got much more dynamic, so it's really easy to crank things, to pull them back, right? You know, the big PA speakers have got a lot more
We like to
give, but you don't have that in the
We like to
studio.
utilise tempo changes during the song as well. To get, it comes into a particularly dancey section and we crank it up 10 BPM. Dave starts playing a wee bit faster. I think that's probably, you can't do that in the studio. But,
You went, 6 years without a gig when you were away?
aye.
Was
I
that?
continued to play. You played as well for a bit.
You
Aye, I
did quite
did
a
some
lot of
acoustic-
live stuff
I did,
online.
Aye, totally. I was keeping my hand in,
Aye.
playing an acoustic guitar, which isn't my favourite thing to do in the world, but he had a band.
It's a good
He
thing.
cheated on us.
Did you?
Aye,
In
I did.
New Zealand?
I had an
Basically,
adulterous affair.
shagged another bird.
Aye, basically, aye.
It's equivalent, isn't
I
it?
started for that band. I played for the full time I was there.
And did you enjoy it or did you feel
It was
dirty?
good, aye. It was good. No, because it's weird, because I'd only had one girlfriend beforehand, right, which was basically Gary and the other two. And you go and do it with other people, and it's just like, it's more or less the same,
We
but
came back and we said, was it better? He said it was different.
it was different.
It was
What
different.
kind of gigs did you play over there?
Just the same, but with far less people.
Shit, man.
It's the same. That's how it felt. It's just the same over and over. Nobody knows ya.
And what would you call it? So
Tell them the name, Colin, tell them the name.
So I've already admitted on this podcast that I've never been good at naming bands. So we named it August Fields, right?
August.
So August Fields. August Fields, that. There
That
was
was
a
a shocking as well.
Isn't that shite? No, it wasn't really my idea. It was a guitarist in the band. There was another guitarist in the band who fancied himself as a novelist, and he'd written this story about a psychopath who crossed the Australian desert on a fucking camel. And the guy was called August Fields, so he said, that's a great idea for a band, and I went, aye, that's a good idea. So I hold myself responsible for
It's a different scene over there.
It's not something like it's totally
it's the
different.
only band name that might be worse than Dead Sea Souls, August Fields, and it's still in a bit. It's still in some of your guitar cases and all that, and I still look at it and
Take
go,
that off, aye.
Can you hear the songs online?
You can go and listen to them online. I'll plug you right now. August Fields and the rest of my bandmates. There you go. I said I'd get you on a podcast.
he's going to go there and sell out the big venues with August Fields. He
I'm
goes there
very
for
proud
this
of
way.
the August Fields stuff, but it teaches you to play differently because it's a different style. So you play differently. There's a lot of stuff I took for that, and I now play back with the new DSS stuff.
Ah.
You just play the instrument differently. You think differently. Harmonies. I always used to sing a top of guys, but now I've learned to sing underneath it because we had a female singer, so I had to sing underneath the female singer.
And I've got
Which is different. It's a different. Technically, it's a different thing to do to sing the lower harmony. It's harder.
Aye.
So you come back and now
It sounds better as well.
Were you apprehensive about that first gig back?
No,
No?
not at all. No, because see, when we
It was King Tuts, wasn't it?
That was the first one. The first one was King Tuts. Like I said, it went for like talking about doing like, let's do a gig. Literally, in my mind, I thought if we hire a hall, like a function hall in a bowling club or something, and we get 50 of our pals and family to come and see us, then that's a good. I'm enjoying that. Do you know what I mean? And then, Ross Coots kind of dragged us kicking and screaming into the idea that we could play big venue in Glasgow or something, and then eventually he must have went to the guys at DF and got the King Tuts gigs organised. But
So what happened? You announced one, it sold out.
Aye.
You announced it sold out 24 hours or nearly.
It sold out. Actually, it sold out in 9 minutes.
Did it? Aye?
Sold out in 9 minutes combined between the pre-sale and the hanging. I was as shocked
That's
as
obscene.
anybody. I was at
Aye.
my work, and I was at my work. I just started this job, and I just put my phone in my drawer and didn't want to know anything about it. And I knew the tickets went on sale at 9. I thought this has got to be so embarrassing because nobody's got to buy tickets, and we're going to have to be cancelling it or something like that. And at that point, it was just one night, and I looked at my phone. I had all these text messages and Facebook messages with folk going, by the way, something's rang. I think something's rang with the website. I think this is sold out. I said, and I was straight on to DF concerts and being like, your website's fucked. Something's rang. There's no way. And they were like, it's sold out. I was like, fucking what? I could not believe it. And then that's
amazing.
And then as soon as that happened, I was like,
We've still got it.
still got it. But I was like, I want to move this to somewhere bigger. That was my first instinct. I want to move this to St Luke's or something like that,
Yep.
or Oran Moor. And then I was talked into the idea of doing a second night, which I'm glad we did, because actually 2 nights in a row at King Tuts is. I think it was you that said to me, like, selling out St Luke's is amazing, but like we'll do that. Do you know what I mean? We'll get to that.
Yep.
But right now, today, 2 nights in a row at King Tuts is going to be a nice feeling, and for us to enjoy it, what's better than fucking doing 2?
Did they give you a bottle of whiskey?
They did. Actually, we got 2.
Aye.
I haven't seen that.
It's in my kitchen. We got drank. So they
Because if you sell it out, you get a
bottle
King
more.
Tuts whiskey, don't
So
you?
it's a Glengoyne King Tuts.
Get his face, he doesn't know anything about it.
So, by the way, one of the bands we haven't mentioned on this is I absolutely love for West Lothian. It's a band called Black Dog Days.
Oh, aye.
And
Sure.
and they're fucking really nice guys. They've got a piano player, by the way, a guy called Jamie Lando that is extremely talented. He covers other West Lothian bands' songs on the piano.
Really?
And it's fun. It's amazing. So anyway, their singer Jimmy is a really sound guy as well, and they were supporting us on the first night at King Tuts, and we were all packed into the wee room. Clearly, you weren't there, and we got the guy who King Tuts came in with the whiskey and that, and we're like, yeah, it's fucking brilliant.
Did you open
And
it?
we opened it and poured it into, like, we just had hundreds of glasses. We poured the full bottle into like however many
That's why
glasses.
you don't know about it.
And we
Still
just
there.
and we just handed it, and then the second night I accepted
That's
it.
like something you keep, surely.
I've still got the case for the one I had. I don't know where the second one is gone. It's gone, the bottle and the wee kind of display case went.
Right.
But I've still got the first one in my living room, actually.
Right.
Aye, so you can have a shot at it, like it can be like
Pass it around like-
it can be like a trophy
like
when
a
you win at
trophy.
football. We'll get to somebody for a week.
4 months each.
There's nothing in it. The bottle's gone totally. But I know we got the obligatory malt, and No, it just kind of snowballed to that point, and then playing the gigs was amazing. It was just, what a feeling.
And at this point, you hadn't released any new music.
No.
That speaks
None.
volumes.
None, absolutely none. But we actually played 2 houses that night.
Did you? Yeah?
We did, aye. We played 2 houses, didn't we?
Aye, two houses. It's an older song, isn't it? It's
Well,
been sort of doing that.
Actually, I wrote it when they were away, when he was away.
Right.
And I had like an acoustic version of it.
What's it about?
It's just about, I'm not telling you. nah.
No, it's just about him cheating on you.
It's this fucking bastard got a share. No, it's just about like mates and trying to keep relationships with your pals together.
Because
As
it
you get older
starts,
and how
it starts
difficult
talking
it is.
about the doors are always open. And,
Aye. Well, that's it, exactly. It's about trying to keep that, because as you get older and you get like houses, cars, jobs, families,
Yep.
you know what I mean? It's
People drift
it's
as well,
difficult
don't
to
they?
keep the relationships together. So it's just about that, to be honest. So I wrote it then, and I did a version of it in a studio in Livingston called the Sound Station with my mate Ian Beattie. I actually got Scott Forsyth for Johnny and the Gyros to play keys in it and that. And then when he came back, and we got back into the rehearsal room, I was like, I've got something ready to go if you want to jam something new. And then we did that, and it just turned into what it is now, which is a lot better than what I did on mine, which is obviously going to be the case. But aye, so the King Tuts nights went extremely well, considering how nervous we were the first night, because I hadn't been nervous for a gig since I was about 19, and I was standing in the fire escape at Tuts, you know, the wee bit you stand
came
there.
down the stairs.
Just standing looking out and thinking, what if we're shite? What if we're not?
There's a great video for that night though online where he's come onto stage and
Aye.
people are going
mate,
mad.
That is, do you know what? People talk about what the best thing is about playing live gigs, and it's obviously the crowd singing your songs for you, and like the reaction when you go into a big chorus or something, people start bouncing and you start feeding off it. But one of the best things is, if in a gig like that, if it's your gig and you've, you know, it's your crowd, you walk out and you're not done anything yet. And they're cheering. You haven't even turned your guitar in. And I'm thinking to myself, you just don't know, this could be terrible. We've not played.
They're still there at the end. That's it.
Aye, we've not played for a millennia. This could be absolutely awful. But no, it was. They were brilliant. They were 2 of the best shows. They're probably the 2 favourite gigs I've played.
The timing it was terrible though, in terms of it was a couple of weeks before the pandemic.
I know, literally a couple of weeks before we all kind of. I remember talking about it in the night and talking about this stuff that was going on in Wuhan and whether or not it would come out here, and everybody was like, nah, no chance, lockdown, fuck, absolutely no way. 3 months later we're on the house talking to folk through the windies.
Totally.
Aye, mad. But no, it was good. King Tuts was, it was good to draw a line under that as well, you know, and then I think Oranmore's a venue I've wanted to play forever. So it's one of the only venues in Glasgow I've not played.
It's a cracking venue.
It's a lovely venue. It's a lovely venue. Only ever been in it to see bands playing. I always thought this is a beautiful place. This is where it should be done.
Aye,
Friday the 15th of April.
Yep, Good Friday.
Aye.
Good Friday.
It'll be a very good Friday.
Yes.
Aye. If you've not got a ticket, get online and get one now, because they're selling fast.
Aye, they are. We see now that we know, we've had a chat with Oranmore, and we know it is definitely happening. There's nothing, there's no plans. They're getting told as well for the people they get advised by that this gig is going ahead, full capacity, exactly how it's intended, which is brilliant news. So I think we'll be very, very close to a sellout now. So I think in a few weeks' time we'll probably be there. So, and it's a lot bigger than King Tuts, so it's a good, it's a nice.
I know, we promised ourselves to do it a wee bit differently as well. So we're going to plough a few resources into a nice lighting rig, and then even performance-wise, we're going for a couple of new ideas, which remain secret, right? Because we can't make that social commitment just yet. Right?
Especially since we haven't fleshed out
haven't
any of these
even
ideas.
tried it. It exists in our heads at the moment. See, this is going to be amazing.
And this is, by the way, this is another thing. Like we spoke before, Derek, about doing shows on your own, right? Yeah. And we're not doing this on our own because actually Ross Coots is the man here. He's the guy that's pulled it together, and his company Fresh Sounds is going to be the promotional tool behind it. But us and Ross are doing it. Do you know what I mean? As a kind of partnership. So it's always Ross is like the 5th member of the band in loads of ways. So you play somewhere like King Tuts for DF concerts. You're just another band, right? And if you want things to happen on stage that are different to make it a show, whether that's additional lighting, a lighting engineer, it's like That's your problem. You know,
Yeah.
working on our and more and having the ability for us to then put the things in place, right? They're just random examples, but things like that to make it a show and have full control. You never get that.
Sure.
Just going and playing with somebody like DF, you know. So I think that's part of the reason as well, where we're kind of doing this on our own.
Who's
so to
supporting
speak.
you? Who's playing? Who else is playing the night?
Nobody yet. No, nobody. We'll think
it.
about that closer to the time. That being said, we'll need to think about it because it's going to be a really popular weekend for people to be gigging.
Aye,
You know what I mean?
it will be.
We don't know.
And I don't know what the criteria is for finding a support band, to be honest with you, because there's a plethora of amazing supports that we could choose from, and I'm sure they would be delighted to come along and share the stage.
Totally. Aye.
And we would be honoured for them to share the stage with us as well. I mean, we could probably name every single band that comes in and out our studio on a weekly basis and
Totally.
go, love to have you up there.
Yeah.
That's the
Speech
thing.
for a couple of weeks. Like,
I'd love-
we'll see. Maybe they'll come.
I'm one of
forward.
these folk that like to have like 5 support bands or something like that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just get
Give
all
folk the
band,
opportunity,
like,
yeah.
aye, and all your mates in their own bands and all that, and be like, can just get everybody in.
Totally.
But I've been told specifically by Ross Coots that I need to stop doing that.
You've promised too
you
many
need to-
folk. Aye.
Well, aye. I think that night we played with you guys at Dreadnought was just perfect. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing.
That was a great night.
Acoustic band.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way to do it.
The
But,
next single, Rats, that
Aye.
should be out around about the same time as this podcast, so tell us a bit about that.
What date are you putting against that? Because like a lot of this rests quite heavily upon my shoulders at this point.
Good. This is what's called fucking real world motivation.
It's a lot.
Before you arrived, I heard it was coming out next week.
Is it? Is that
Well, by the time this goes out, it'll definitely be announced for sure. But aye, so Rats is the next. I mean, you've heard it.
Brilliant. It's absolutely
We're
bang.
having a bit of fun with that. It's a fun tune. It's still, you may have heard the draft of it. We're still tweaking it a wee
We're
bit.
still doing a couple of wee bits and pieces, but
We've got a guy in the Philippines putting together a video for it.
Right.
Right, he's mad excited about this. Right?
I love how you say it's got
I
to
know,
get.
yeah,
He knows nothing about it, but he knows the videos.
this is how
how
Dead
you
Sea
operate.
Souls have been operating since day one.
It's
yeah.
good. It's like you
Yeah, that's
get-
how we never made it before.
Basically, you've got your own job to do, and you better be fucking good at it. Right?
Well,
If
but
you don't,
I-
it all fails.
Why the Philippines? Like, what's the story here?
This is because we had this mad idea. We're going to put together a cartoon-based
I know.
video.
Oh,
or something.
amazing.
That was a discussion, and then it just sort of gathered.
But use as cartoon characters?
No.
Oh, come on.
Couldn't even make a cartoon version of us look good.
So the internet's a wonderful thing, right?
We just
Facebook and
put it
Instagram's
out,
a wonderful thing. We just sort of had this very rough little idea for the cartoon. I just flicked it out on Facebook, just on the pages, you know, amateur animators and you know, 3D visual effects specialists pages, and then and you tell them roughly what you want. Tell them it's a paid gig as well. And then you just got 1,000 replies. People saying, "I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this." People for
Did they send you like a preview?
California, aye. Not of what we were looking for, but just stuff
Right.
we've
Just
done in the past.
samples. Aye.
We just sample them.
Pretty
That-
cool,
that
like.
looks
That's
great.
amazing.
You can't believe how like
Amazing stuff.
how
There's so
much
many
amazing
talented
stuff.
people in the world, man.
Especially if you're doing something creative like this. If you're giving people free rein to be like, this is a rough remit of what we're doing, and the stuff you get back is absolutely incredible.
There's
But
no more handwritten things to record labels. It's
None of
like,
that carry on. None of that. What,
seen your handwriting, by the way, they probably just threw it in the bin.
couldn't read it. That's why you never heard back.
The scratchings are mad, man.
What's that trying to say? Yeah?
But we've got an idea for Rats to be, because of the way the song is. It's different for Two Houses. It's more, I suppose it's slightly more like a traditional Dead Sea Soul song, and
Yeah.
it's kind of pumping all the way through. You don't really get a break for the beat of the song, and we want the artwork and the video and all that stuff to reflect it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're really proud of this one actually. When we started the recording, we had Two Houses, Rats, and another song. And we thought this is the order of how these songs are going to be. For us, when we went to listen to it, we thought Two Houses is going to be the best one, then probably this song, then Rats has got to be a kind of bit of filler. And then once we've recorded, we're like, by the way, that's my favourite song of the three.
Aye, it's
Because
brilliant.
it's like, it's just a kind of, it's
I never
ticks all
lets
the
up.
boxes for
Never
us.
lets up.
Aye.
It's 3.5 minutes of non-stop.
Yeah.
Just keeps on
Colin
going.
gets to play the piano on it as well.
That keyboard's out the bin.
Got the guy, got the old Casio out the wheelie bin, started playing it. But no, I'm glad you like it. It's, I'm hopeful that people will like it. Again, we're making songs that we like. We hope that people, will receive it in the same way that they did back in the day when we released Danny Bell and Trendsetter, because it's kind of made in that mould a wee bit.
That is very much,
It's made in that mould a wee bit.
Aye.
But
Just got to keep churning them out, by the way.
that's it.
There's no reason why not.
Hit after hit.
But we've got
We can just keep on.
we've got new ones waiting. We've got they're just they exist in the rehearsal room at the moment, recorded on our phones.
Aye.
And so I reckon we're good for another. Just keep every few months we've got new songs to play. You know what I mean? That's the idea anyway.
When things are back to normal, what does the future look like for you guys?
I'm going to go back to New Zealand.
Thank fuck.
Are you actually, bro?
I'm going to pack his bags. No, he's no.
He's going back to that good band.
No chance. He's just August
Fields,
come
man.
back, Colin. Come back.
Need to rename it. Rename August Fields.
Are they still playing?
No.
They sound good now.
They went hip hop.
They replaced Cox. They're brilliant.
Like, get the fuck out of here. Get out of the country.
Oh dear.
Get deported.
I didn't think we didn't. Luckily for us, again, gone back to what really enjoyed the podcast you did with the guys for Dictator. I think it shows they've got their heads screwed on in terms of how they want to operate.
Yep.
They've got plans. They've got really specific plans. And it's great to hear that Dictator have got that mindset, and there's loads of bands and they want to do that. And that's going to be their job, you know. And I believe that they can do it. Like Mark Sharpen, that's another one. And we're just not there. That's not where we are anymore.
Yep.
We're making music just because we really, really enjoy it. It's one of the things that we do. We're three best mates, and
First and
we just
foremost, you're
want-
making it for you.
we just want to, we just want to be able to enjoy it and play. And listen, if people are going to buy tickets to come and see a few gigs a year, then brilliant. You know, that's even better.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely fantastic. So, in terms of the future, we'd love to put out another album. We'd love to. We're not in a rush to do anything, so we'd love to do that. We're looking at the 15th of April as being, again, I just want to make that show my favourite show ever. And then after that, something towards the end of the year, and we'll just see how it goes. You know what I mean? We don't have any.
I think as you get older, you appreciate it more.
Definitely,
Aye,
100%.
sure.
Oh God, aye,
for
aye.
sure, man. Because you look back, well, it's a nostalgic thing to even look back now. So you think, well, we could.
Aye.
It was great to get that feeling each time, just looking back.
We could can it tomorrow and look back and be like, that was amazing, Larry.
Ah, of
I
course.
loved that. We did so many cool stuff, cool things.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And we just can. We just, the way I think it now is like, if I stopped this to now, I'd miss it so much. You know what I mean? I'd be really, really like, I'm not ready at all to stop.
Totally.
To stop doing this, man.
Aye.
Sound like a 35-year-old football player in the Premier League who's like, listen, Roy, how many more seasons have you got in you? Oh, I don't know, the knees are
You
shot.
know it yourself. You stood on stage yourself 100 times. You know how it is. You know how it is. There's nothing beats like
You can't replace it.
You can't replace
The buzz is incredible.
It was like 300 people singing back a song to you that you wrote in your bedroom.
Aye.
You know, 50 years
Mental.
ago. Come on,
Mental.
that's
It's
all right.
incredible,
That's
isn't
all
it?
right.
Aye.
Everybody, you know, it's a unique experience for a small selection of people. Everybody here included, and of course, you know, long may it continue. It's
Get another gig with you guys.
Absolutely.
That's what the future will hold. We'll be playing our show.
Looking forward to it
We'll
already.
come to these parts.
Hey God, you'll never leave.
Podcast is a success, so.
It's doing well.
Aye.
Fantastic.
What number's this going to be?
This is going to be, so I want to say 80 maybe?
80.
81, aye, yeah.
I can't wait for the Carol Baskin one.
That'll be out just before this, aye.
I
So.
can't.
Aye. How long did you chat to her?
Too long.
Really? But was
She was about 45 minutes or so.
Really?
Aye,
That's
yeah.
brilliant.
She was brilliant.
She
aye.
did nice, aye, really
Lovely,
nice.
aye, aye.
That's amazing.
Sweet, man. That's
Aye.
ideal.
I saw
So,
the Jeremy Corbyn one as well. Amazing.
So please go back and listen to the Carol Baskin one if you have not. But Cbas, Gaz, thanks so much for,
No worries.
for
Absolute
coming
pleasure.
along.
Thanks very
It's
much.
been a pleasure chatting to you again.
Defo, mate.
Aye.
You too, pal.
Thanks to everyone who has watched or listened to this podcast. Please go back and check out some older episodes if you've not done so already. Cheers.